Hi guys, Brian here. As part of my medical terminology class, I wanted to introduce the idea of using Quizlet to my students. Um, I think that repetition is a big part of medical terminology, and the only way that I can think of to really kind of ingrain that into my students is to use an application like Quizlet. Now, if you've never used it before, I think it's a great tool, and really that's what this brief presentation is going to be about. So, goals for the presentation. I wanted to just briefly go over the importance of memorizing some of the parts that go into medical terminology. So that would be prefixes, suffixes, root words, and combining forms. I want you to kind of understand why it's important, why we kind of go this route into understanding the subject. We're going to provide just kind of a brief introduction of Quizlet, and then I'm actually going to walk you through the steps of setting up your Quizlet account. And learning how to add terms to what is going to be class sets. Brief pause because my computer's slow. Okay, so why is medical terminology important? Well, this kind of stat says it all to me. There is a medical dictionary, so to speak. It's the Dorland's Illustrated Medical Dictionary. There's been 32 editions since it's been out. The last one was published in 2012, and it's got approximately 124,000 entries. So you can kind of see that just from that, by how many definitions there are, that it's impossible just to memorize all of them. So the way that we learn medical terms is by breaking them down into their word parts, so to speak. You know, a perfect example, you might not understand what all of those terms are: cardiogenic, cardianality, cardiograph, cardianulate. But if you know that cardi refers to the heart, then at least you have an idea of what some of those things are. You know, for example, if you know that pathy has to do with disease, then you know that cardiopathy has to do at least with some type of disease to the heart specifically. And that's kind of the reason why we teach medical terminology in the way that we do. So I want to talk a little bit about Quizlet and why we use it. Quizlet is an online study tool that allows individuals to study by way of kind of like essentially flashcards and games. A couple ways you can use it. You know, the old standard of using flashcards, but you can also kind of write them. You can be quizzed into doing writing the words out or spelling them. There's a number of different tests. The idea is that you continue to practice the ones that you don't know, and the ones that you do kind of goes off to the side. So you can actually use it individually or collaboratively. And my hope is that if I use this tool in a class, I'd like to use it collaboratively. And that's kind of one of the reasons, the big reason why I'm kind of doing this brief tutorial. Okay, so now I'm going to go over just briefly through the setup of actually how you would start a Quizlet account, how I would approve it, and how you get started. Okay, so here I'm just going to enter the words Quizlet, come up on the site. We're going to go ahead and go to sign up. Now you're going to have to enter in some information. You're going to need to enter in your birthday. I'm just going to make a fictional one up here. I wish I could be 21 again. I have to come up with a username. Now I've practiced this about 37 times, so as you'll see, the username is considerably long, but I guess practice makes progress. So the username for this individual is going to be MedTerm student for our class is 845. I'll use the CalU email, and then I'll come up with a password, which again, since I've done this 37 times, the password is going to have to be considerable. Okay, so I've jumped ahead and gotten acceptance. So now you need to go to your email, where you're going to have to confirm your account. And once that happens, you'll be into the system. You can actually go and change some settings. So for example, if I wanted to, per se, choose my profile picture, my daughter loves puppies, so let's change that. Then there's a host of other things you could change. You could change night mode. You do want to notice whether it's a teacher or a student account. in this case, you guys will be students. Now, what will also have to happen here is I will have to approve it. What you'll need to do is you'll have to add the class. So in this scenario, I would present my name to my students. The username that I've been using for a lot of classes is Brian F. Foster. So in this example, for example, you could go to Anatomy and Physiology, and you would see that the request has to be approved by the administrator, which would be your professor. And once that happens, you would be allowed into the class. So I jumped ahead just to show you that from the professor view, I would see that the student requested to be added to the class, and then I went ahead and added them. You saw on the bottom it showed that they were added. Jumping back into our student view, and you'll see that up here the little icon is of the student. You'll see that Anatomy and Physiology, the class has been added to my sets. These are all the things within Anatomy and Physiology. And as a professor, I could actually go in and allow students to contribute to these sets. So they're just not sets that I could create, they're actually sets that students could create. And I think that when I think of a collaborative system, that's really what I'd like to envision for medical terminology, is that students will be able to add to these sets so that they all can study together. And there's a lot of pieces that need to be worked out in that, but that's one of the goals I have for the medical terminology class. In closing, I hope this was beneficial. It certainly was for me. It's made me see that these videos is definitely much more of an art form. Very, very challenging, but I think it could be really useful for my students. So thanks, Dr. West. Thanks to you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.